Hello YouTube, today is Saturday, February 20th, 2016, and it's only 2 days until the opening of the Mobile World Congress in Barcelona in Spain. And there's a lot of rumors flying around of what we're going to see. Some of those are not really rumors, because Samsung and LG, they have already told us that they're going to reveal their new flagship phones tomorrow, the day before the Mobile World Congress actually starts. But that's okay, of course, they can do that. Sony, my favorite brand, are going to have a press conference on Monday, 8:30 Central European time, and they have not told anyone really what they're going to talk about. So there's a lot of rumors and a lot of speculation, and people are saying that they just released the Z5 flagship phone in the US. It was announced 6 months ago in IFA in Berlin. So will they announce a new flagship phone, the Z6? Possibly not. Maybe they're going to do a new smartwatch. Maybe they're going to talk about PlayStation VR, or perhaps it's time to release another tablet. And speaking of tablets, 1 year ago exactly, plus minus a couple of days, this was announced, and this is the Sony Xperia Z4 tablet. It took quite some time after the announcement before we could actually get it in our hands. It materialized this summer, or summer of 2015. I got mine in July 2015, and I've been in love with it ever since. And every video I've made since then, I've been talking about how great this tablet is. I thought it was time to tell you why. Partly because this might be superseded on Monday by a new tablet, and partly because there is another rumor flying around saying that Sony will get out of the tablet market altogether, which seems strange because they are very good at making good tablets. So why would they stop doing that? I have an idea about that, but we'll have to wait and see what they say on Monday. So this is a review of the Sony Xperia Z4 tablets and some idle speculation about the future of Sony and of tablets in general. Enjoy! Let's start by taking a look at the design of the Sony Xperia Z4 tablet. As you can see, it is pretty nondescript. I read somewhere, possibly Albert Einstein, probably someone else, once said that an engineer doesn't know that he's done with his work when he can't add more to the design, but when he can't take anything else away from the design. And I think the Sony design engineers, they are living by that credo, because this is very, very dialed back and muted. Basically, it's just as you can see, a black rectangle. Up here you can see the little camera, front camera, and you have a Sony logo up in the left corner. Very discreet logo. On the back, it is not much to see either. You have a Sony logo and an Xperia logo. You have a camera. You have some dents here where I've been using this. I've been using this extensively for the past 8 months. And there's a bit of scratching here. The back, in fact, everything except the front is made out of plastic. It is a kind of nice feeling to the plastic though, a velvety kind of surface, which in my experience is pretty easy to keep away from fingerprints, although my hands are not usually greasy. So, but you know, nothing much to see here. If you take a look at it from the front again, you will notice that the only thing you can really see on the outside here is the power button, which is this signature round power button that the Xperia Z series had up until the newly released Z5. On the top you have a microphone jack. Up here you also have a flap, which I will try to open. I haven't opened it many times. Ooh. And in here you can find that you can insert a micro SD card and also possibly a nano SIM if you have the cell version of this tablet, which I don't. I have the Wi-Fi only version. Of course there's this protective thing here because this tablet is, like most Sony Xperia stuff, rated IP68, so you can submerge it and have it in a sandstorm or something. On the other side, right here, you have the micro USB charging port. Right there. Standard charging port, no docking on this tablet. On the bottom side you have nothing but this plastic edge. Surprisingly not very scratched, but there you go. And on the left hand side you have the power button, and then just underneath the power button you have the volume rocker. And the volume rocker is painted black, so you can't really see it, but it is quite easy to find with your finger when you're using it. Alright, so you might say, are there no speakers on this thing? Indeed there are speakers, but you can't really see them because they are, here is one and here is one, and they are just tiny little slits in the glass that covers the whole front, which gives you, it's kind of loud, but obviously there's not much bass in these speakers, so I prefer to use the headphones. And since this is a Sony Xperia device, it also supports the Sony noise cancelling headphone technology that came out with the Z3 phone, so that works very well. There is, if we turn this on, quite a bit of bezel around the edges here. Turns out though that if you want to hold this, the bezel is actually a very nice size. There is a problem with the speakers, because if you hold this, your hand will probably cover the speakers. I don't know why they put the speakers down here. I think it is possibly because if you hold it like this, your hand will cup the speakers, and that might actually improve the sound. But if your hands are big like mine, you will just cover the speakers. There's another design feature that is worth noticing, and that is around this edge there is a very slight lip on the plastic, which means that if you put it flat on the face like so, it doesn't actually touch the glass to the surface. The surface is fraction of a millimeter above the glass is a fraction of a millimeter above the surface, which means that it doesn't scratch as easily, and also it makes it tiny bit easier to hold with one hand, because you kind of got that lip to rest your thumb against, which is very nice. Other things to say about this is, of course, the physical characteristics. It is very thin and it is very light. I weighed mine the other day and it was 370 grams. I don't know how much that is in ounces or pounds, but it is very light. It is quite easy to handle with one hand. And it is very, very thin. And here I have a magazine of the kind I usually buy when I'm traveling. I don't really know why I buy these, because I don't really read them, but it feels nice to have it in my bag. And if I put these side by side, I don't know if you can see that they are basically almost the same thickness. The magazine is tiny bit thinner, and they also, there's not much difference in weight. So now I stopped buying these because I can bring this instead, and with the tablet I can watch movies, listen to music, read news, surf the web, check my email. With this I can only read whatever they've written in this issue, which is boring. So Z4 tablet it is. It is better than a magazine, I promise you. Alright, so we taking a look at the outside of this. Now a couple of technical words about the insides. On the front, as you can see, the main screen of the screen. It is a 10.1 inch IPS screen, tri-luminous display with X-Reality engine. Tri-luminous and X-Reality are basically buzzwords created by Sony's TV marketing department. Can't really say what it is all about, but if you go into, Erica Griffin's videos, I'm sure that she will explain it in detail somewhere. I really like the display. 10.1 inch Quad HD, which means 2560 by 1600 pixels. So it's pretty high resolution and it looks absolutely gorgeous to me. It is not Super AMOLED, but I prefer it that way actually. It's got the Snapdragon 820 SoC inside with the Adreno 430 graphical processing unit, so GPU. That's the hottest thing last year basically, and it's not really that interesting anymore because now everyone is talking about the 820. The Snapdragon 810 had a very bad reputation when it was released, as it was constantly overheating. That was a big problem in, for instance, the Xperia Z3 Plus phone that Sony released a year ago. And LG actually opted to use the less powerful 808 in their LG V10 phone because of the, well, I don't know, it was because of the overheating problem, but that might have been something to do with it. For this tablet though, I've been using it for 8 months every day. I played some pretty heavy games on it. Never had any problems with overheating or stuttering or anything like that. So I'm guessing Sony did something with the heat dissipation, and it worked very well. It's got 3 gigs of RAM. It's got a micro SD slot where you can put up to 128 gigs of external storage. Internal storage is 32 gigs. This model is the Wi-Fi only. There's also a cell phone version with LTE 4G. The thickness that I talked about earlier is actually 6.1 millimeters, and this version weighs in at approximately 375 grams. The LTE version is slightly heavier, but still not very heavy at all. The rear-facing camera is a simple 8 megapixel thing. You shouldn't really take photos with your tablet anyway. If you're doing that, you're doing it wrong. So those are the specifications of the Z4 tablets. This is the Xperia Z4 screen. As you can see, it is a Quad HD 10-inch displays, and it is pretty nice. It is what Sony call a triluminous display. I'm not entirely sure what that means, but if you go and talk to Erica Griffin, I'm sure she can tell you all about it. In fact, I think she did in one of her videos, so you can check that out. But to me, it's sufficient to say that it is a very nice screen. It is not a super AMOLED like the Samsung screens, which means, in my opinion, this is better because it doesn't have that oversaturated colors that you need to dial down when you buy it. Here it was basically perfect out of the box. I never had any reason to fiddle with those settings at all. It is pretty quick. It's got the Snapdragon 810 SoC, which is a very good CPU or SoC. It came out, when it first came out, they had a lot of problems with it because it overheated, and it also overheated in Sony's Z3 Plus / Z4 phone. But with this, I never had any problems with it. There are 3 gigs of RAM in this computer, or this tablet, which means that you can play games like XCOM, which you can't play on smaller tablets or tablets with less memory in them. So this is one of the games I play when I'm traveling, because you can play this for days without finishing it, and it's really a good game. Just came out the XCOM 2 just came out, so I'm playing that now, but it's not available for Android. Alright, here we go. Obviously I'm in the middle of something. I haven't actually played this for some time. Yeah, no, that's not a good idea. I have no idea where I am, so I'm just gonna run away.
Yes, Commander.
Alright, this is not a good game. I'm gonna skip out of this. The point is, I wanted to show that although this tablet is actually getting on a bit, it can still handle modern games, and even these games that weren't really made for the tablet. It's a PC game that they've converted. let's exit. I played a couple of other games when I was trying to compare this to the Shield tablet K1. I will cut those films in as well. Another game that I really like at the moment is Lara Croft Go. Which is a new game, but this really isn't a very demanding game. You can play that pretty much on anything, I think. Let's just go into one of these. The thing is, this is a very good game for using on a tablet. It really uses all the complete screen size very well, and it's also an interesting game to play. Of course, I played this before, so I actually know what I'm doing. I don't really know what I'm doing. Possibly I could know what I'm doing. Here we go. The reason I like this game so much is that it kind of shows, in my opinion, what you can do on a tablet, and I wish there were more games like this. I don't really like the racing games and stuff like that. I really like these kinds of games, and I would like to see more of them. You possibly can see that it is handling everything pretty well. There's no problems in navigation or opening apps and stuff like that. It can handle most games. The storage is a bit limited on this tablet because I bought the cheapest one. So having installed XCOM and Lara Croft Go and some other apps, it kind of crowded, so I have uninstalled all my Action 3D games because I don't play them, but I will show you those in a different clip. Into my mind, this really is all I need from my tablet in terms of power. This is the 810 chipset, as I said. It doesn't get very warm at all. It gets a bit warmish up here in this area. Guess that's where the SoC is, but otherwise it's okay. Perhaps slightly easier this time because I actually know what I'm supposed to do.
Kaboom! Stay down. Next one. Want some? Thanks. Hasta la vista, deadly. Enter the world of pain. Burn, baby. What do we have here?
So if you take a look at this tablet, the Sony Xperia Z4 tablet, and I've been telling you about the design and the software and the screen and everything. I can't, this is, you know, personal opinion and speculation. I can't help but wonder, what should Sony do to improve on this? They can change the size, of course. They can make it bigger or smaller. They can change the bezels, because the bezels are quite distinct here. They could make it thinner. They could make it lighter. They can upgrade the SoC to 820, Snapdragon 820. They could up the RAM a bit. They could introduce more onboard memory, built-in memory, till maybe 128 gigs of storage or something like that. They could possibly add a fingerprint scanner, or maybe a USB Type-C instead of the micro USB. They could, of course, also improve the cameras, because these cameras aren't very good. The problem is, if I was Sony, which I'm not, but if I was, and I was following this omnibalance design philosophy, I would really struggle to figure out what to do with this tablet to improve it. Because if you take a look at it, you can't really take anything else away. All right, you can make it thinner, possibly, but it's gonna shave, you know, fractions of a millimeter or something like that off. It's not gonna make a big difference. You can make the bezels smaller, but then you would kind of leave people with nowhere to place their thumbs, so they can't hold it. They could fiddle with the placement of the speakers, possibly, but I don't think that will make much of a difference. The same goes for the chipsets. If they upgrade from the 810 Snapdragon to the 820, it's going to be an improvement, obviously, but it's not going to be that much of an improvement. And quite frankly, upping the RAM or the storage, it's nice, but it's not that big a step, really. It's just incremental improving something that already is almost perfect. And I think that's a problem with Sony these days. They have followed their omnibalance design philosophy, stripping away things, taking away unnecessary design items, stripping it down, making it clean, simple, very utilitarian. Same goes for the Sony skin for Android. It's minimal these days. They try to make it close to stock Android and just keep the things that people actually think are improvements over stock Android, which they've done very well. And eventually they will come to a point where they can't really do much more in the omnibalance scheme of things. They kind of come to the end of the road. So they can upgrade this slightly, which will mean that they end up with kind of what they had last year when they wanted to release the Z4 phone, but ended up releasing the Z3 Plus in everywhere except in Japan, because they couldn't really get any better than the Z3 phone already was. It was very slight improvements on the chipset and the I don't know, RAM improvement or anything else, and that simply wasn't a big enough step to warrant calling it the new flagship. I think they're in the same situation with the tablet. They can't really do anything more to it, making it, you know, a big step forward. They can only do incremental steps, which means that it won't be a new flagship. It will just be an update, and people will not think that it's worth the upgrade. So for Sony, at this point, they really need to come up with something new. They tried adding the fingerprint sensor for the Z5 phone. In my opinion, that wasn't very successful. It kind of ruined this very nice, you know, power button, the round silvery little button that you have on all the previous Z devices, Xperia Z devices, and made it elongated and flat and not very comfortable. And also I've been told it isn't actually working very well as a fingerprint sensor. So they tried that and didn't quite work. They tried to do the 5.5 inch 4K display and no one was really impressed with that. It's impressive from a technical point of view that they managed to do it, but kind of useless, pointless thing. They had this mirror finish back, which most people I've spoken to seem to just hate, and they put skins on it to get rid of that reflective surface. Although I must admit that most people I've been talking to are men, so there might be a difference gender-wise, I don't know. So if I was a designer at Sony, I would really be pulling my hair out at the moment, because whatever they do to this, whatever they add, they're going to make it worse. So if they want to come out with a new tablet or phone, a brand new flagship, they really need to skip the omnibalance design and come up with something new. And that is hard, and that's going to take some time, and I'm not sure that Sony ever going to do that, because they've kind of been on this minimalistic design philosophy forever. So will Sony pull out of the tablet scene? Possibly, actually. I think it's possible that they will at least take a time out and say, we're not going to do this for a while. Do buy the Z4 tablet. It is a very good tablet. It is still, in my opinion, the best Android tablet out there. And then they're going to regroup, rethink, and come back with something different. That's my guess, and you know, in 2 days I might find out. Until then, I do recommend, if you're going to buy a new tablet, do take a look at the Z4 tablet. It is very good. I know that in some markets they are bundling it with a keyboard, which makes it even more expensive than it already is. That's too bad. I got mine without the keyboard, the Wi-Fi only version, and it wasn't too expensive, and I think definitely it was worth my money because I use this every day. Seriously, I use it every day. I use it when traveling, I use it when at home, I use it every day. For watching movies, for watching TV, for playing games, for surfing the web, for checking my emails. You know, everything a tablet is all about. That's what I use it for. So, take a look at the Z4 tablet. Unless, of course, there is a Z6 or Z5 tablet coming out in a couple of days, then you should probably take a look at that, because I think it's going to be excellent. When you take a look at a tablet like the Sony Xperia Z4 tablet, it becomes pretty apparent that, you know, you can upgrade the SoC, you can get more RAM, you can get more into these devices now, but it doesn't really give you that much of an improvement over whatever was before. It doesn't matter if it's a Sony or a Samsung or an LG or HTC or Huawei or whatever it is. You don't really get that much more when you upgrade your tablet, which is why the tablet's market is slowing down, I think. And the reason for this is that there is no real software incentive to get the new hardware. We're still not seeing, you know, software or apps that use this resolution screen to any significant degree. We don't see many games or apps that use the extra RAM. We don't see anything in Android that would, you know, make it use of the RAM for multitasking or anything like that. The apps are not made to be multitasked in Android, and that's a problem with 4 tablets today. The Android operating system is not good enough for doing tablet things. On my Sony Xperia Z4 tablet, I can play 2 games that I can't play on any other tablet that I have, and those are the Grim Fandango, which is a game that it's a remake of an old game. I love that, and also XCOM Enemy Within. Both are games that have been ported from the PC, and Grim Fandango is kind of a point-and-click adventure game, which was very popular in the 90s, possibly the best ever such game. And XCOM Enemy Within is, of course, a turn-based action strategy game. 2 really good games. I really love them. You can't even see them in the PlayStation Store, Google Play Store, unless you have at least 3 gigs of RAM in your device. The thing is, though, playing XCOM Enemy Within on this works brilliantly. It is a good platform to play that game, and that's a big game. That's a massive game that takes, you know, days to finish, if you ever finish it. And it works very well on the tablet. What I think we need to see for tablets to, you know, get out of the mud they're currently in, is for more developers to release games like that. I am convinced that this tablet, Xperia Z4 tablet, would be able to handle, for instance, Civilization 5 without any problems, really. Yes, you had to recompile the code, and you have to possibly reduce the complexity of the graphics quite a bit, because the game is huge. But you don't have to dumb it down like they did with the Civilization Revolution, which is just an awful game. If people start making games like that, if people start making semi-serious apps that you could actually do some semi-serious productive work with, if we could get Android to become truly multitasking and get, you know, switching between apps and programs, then I think tablets would be again selling like hotcakes, and also it would be worth your money to upgrade your tablet or indeed your phone, even if there's just, you know, some extra RAM or new chipset, because that would make those demanding programs run better. The situation now is that almost all developers are developing games and things, and they're kind of giving them away for free, and then they are making the money on ads and in-app purchases, which means that they need to get it out to as many devices as possible. And if you want to get things out to as many devices as possible, you have to make them run well on even, you know, low end or at least mid-level devices. And if you can run your apps and your games and everything you do on a entry-level device that costs maybe a third of what you have to pay for this, then why should you pay extra for this? You know, there's no point. So for Sony, for instance, it might be a good idea to get some of those PlayStation titles converted for the tablet, or possibly, preferably not PlayStation titles directly, but rather PC games. Make sure that you get some of the more advanced PC games converted to this platform, and I think that would get the hardware up and running again, from being basically, you know, not very interesting anymore. So that's why I think that tablets and even phones are diminishing in sales these days. There's just no incentive. The stuff that came out last year and the year before is basically so good that there's no real point in upgrading them. I can still play all the games I've tried on my Zen 3 phone, which is a year and a half old now. It's running the 801 chipset SoC. Why should I upgrade it? Why should I pay, you know, $500-600 for a new phone when my old phone is still working perfectly and doing the job? Yeah, the business is in a difficult position right now. I like LG. They are actually thinking outside the box with their new modular design for the G5, which they are announcing tomorrow. I'm looking forward to that. But for everyone else, I think you need to start looking at the software. Get those games pushing the machines, then you can start selling upgrades again, like you did in the PC, the 3D gaming wars in the late 90s and early 2000s, where you had to buy a new graphics card every 8 months or so to just play the new games that came out. We need that kind of situation to get the hardware really steaming again. So that's my opinion on that.